It's an interesting approach because I don't believe that there are many possibilities these days.
Ivan, as you have mentioned that he is trying to renegotiate with the world, usually it's the critics say that it's rhetoric, and on ground there is nothing, no change in the last 7 months. Because if we see the bone of contentions and the troubled spots in the world like Afghanistan, Iran, North Korea, there is no change. So how do we rank that what Obama is saying, it's only a rhetoric, or it's going to be translated into actions?
If you remember the first year of coming of Gorbachev, everybody was basically accusing him exactly in this. They are going to say it's only rhetoric, but nothing is changing. I do believe that rhetoric is already a change. First of all, there are at least 3 important changes in the American foreign policy I can see. I don't know how all this is going to end up, but at least I can see the change. The first change is a much more hard pressure on Israel and on Mr. Netanyahu to deliver on the roadmap. And as you know, for Mr. Obama, this is not an easy decision. This is not easy because of the domestic political constellation in the United States, but the Obama administration is doing this. Secondly, I do believe that there was a major attempt for Mr. Obama to reset the relations with Russia. It's going to be very difficult because Russia is at one and the same time a rising power, but also a declining power. It's very insecure at the moment, and it's very difficult to have a negotiations with the insecure power. But the truth is that there is a real change in the America-Russia's policy, and if before the major idea was how to contain Russia, obviously this is how to integrate it. And the third major policy change which I can see in the Obama administration, this is his obviously reluctance basically to rely only on force. Even in the case of Afghanistan, even in the case of Iraq, where the military is going on, you can see more and more America talking like basically Europeans, saying that the developmental issue and the social issues are much more important, that the army can win the war, but the army cannot win the peace. For us, it looks kind of a conventional talk, but I don't believe that this is as conventional when you go to the policy thinking of the American administration for the last 8 years. So there is a change. Of course, you're right to say that there is no results of the change. But it's different, and to be honest, we cannot bet that there are going to be results. Good intentions and even good policies not always can be successful policies. You need a two for tango, and of course the situation is not very much in favor of Mr. Obama, because I really do believe that he is very much under pressure to be perceived as weak and indecisive, and also the policy consensus within the United States is also very weak. If you can see how part of the American establishment reacted to the Iran policy, if you can see how critical they have been towards the Russia policy, it's not simply that the world is not always understanding Mr. Obama. The basic problem is that part of the American foreign policy establishment is strongly against him.
Well, exactly on this point, I want to seek your opinion as expert in United States affairs. Okay, personally, Obama has charisma, and he is being adored in the whole of the world, and most of the people who know America and Obama, they just have high expectations that he will do better for the world. Unlike his predecessor, as you mentioned, the 8 years of President Bush in Washington. Now, the question is that, okay, Obama is personally, he has established his credentials in the world that, okay, he wants to do good in the world. Now, the question is that can he do it, because it is still the perception in the world that the neocons and the defense establishment, the CIA mind and the Pentagon mind, that there is no change at all. So they want to win with the hard force in the world. What do you think that can Obama make some change in the mindset of those people who are sitting in Pentagon or CIA or in other departments?
Of course, I'm not the greatest expert on the American foreign policy decision making, but he's my guess. On one side, of course, you have the Pentagon people and the military people, but the military people already basically experience the limits of the American hard power. All these people that spend time in Iraq or Afghanistan, They're not as enthusiastic about solving problems by force than they used to be 8 years ago. And if you can see also the changes in the American foreign policy and basically the coming of the Obama establishment, you're going to see that the professional military is one of the least hawkish groups in the American foreign policy. When it comes to the neocons, of course, they're playing the tough game, but in a certain way they're playing the tough game much more trying to justify their positions from before, trying to say that Mr. Obama is going to fail. But what they're offering? To bomb Iran? I don't believe that even many of them these days, if you're going to be pressed to make a decision on their own, will go this way, basically knowing that there's so much unintended consequences and that the world is going to be strongly negative on this. So the strength of Mr. Obama from this point of view is that nevertheless there are many people who are nervous with him. There is not a really strong alternative agenda. The people who basically disagree with Mr. Obama has not anything consistent to offer. But there is a second problem which I can find much more important, and the problem is that most of the people, this is in the Obama administration, this is also true for some of the critics of Mr. Obama, but they have been shaped in 1990s, just after the end of the Cold War. And this was a very kind of a special period of history when everything looked possible, where everything looked at the problem of the political will, when the United States basically can achieve everything they wanted. So most of these people, they have not faced real negotiations in their careers. It was so easy for the America to achieve many of its goals that these people don't know what is to basically see unsolvable problem. So I do believe that they have lost this very important sense of tragic, which was so important for the great American foreign policy generation of people like George Kennan and others, who know that not all problems are solvable. So this generational problem, this basically saying farewell to the 1990s, I see as a major problem. By the way, this is much easier for me to observe in the area which I know best, and this is the policy towards Russia. Nevertheless, how realistic the United States are trying to be these days, they cannot confess in front of themselves that there are going to be tough decisions to be made, and in order to have a compromise, you should also lose on certain issues. You should make a kind of a painful sacrifice. This is a cultural issue, and I do believe this is a cultural issue very much with the way the American foreign policy elite has been socialized in the last 20 years. Years ago, somebody who not always deserves to be quoted, I mean Carl Schmitt, used to say that victorious powers lose curiosity. And I do believe that in the last 20 years, strangely enough, the United States had lost curiosity about the world, about the way the others are seeing what's going on. And now they should renegotiate, not simply on the basis of interests, they should start to be interested how the others perceive what's happening in the world, and not telling the others you're wrong or right, because the problem is not you're right or wrong. You're simply acting on your perceptions.
My question, I want a brief answer on this point. America is unwilling to lead, or it is getting unable to lead the world?
You know, this is the very idea of the leadership is basically changing. America is going to remain the first-rate power for the next decades, because simply you have the economic and political and military components of it that exist. I do believe that the basic problem is that the Americans feel lost in the world, because what has happened for the last 20 years is that the United States, and to be honest, the European Union too, used to have the drafting power.